Hello and welcome to Critical Mass TV. We've got a great show in store for you tonight, so sit back and enjoy some mixed mental arts to boost your intellectual self-defense. It is Sunday, October 26th, 2014. Many thanks, as always, to Vermont Community Access Media and Tech Jim Kelty, the fantastic local band, the Aerolites, who kindly let us use their song, Have You Read the News, for our theme song, and everyone else who makes the show possible. Bear with me for a moment while I read a quote by Czech playwright Václav Havel from his essay entitled The Power of the Powerless. By breaking the rules of the game, the citizen living within the truth has disrupted the game as such. He has exposed it as a mere game. He has shattered the world of appearances, the fundamental pillar of the system. He has upset the power structure by tearing apart what holds it together. He has demonstrated that living a lie is living a lie. He has broken through the exalted facade of the system and exposed the real base foundations of power. He has said the emperor is naked, and because the emperor is in fact naked, something extremely dangerous has happened. By his action, the citizen has addressed the world. He has enabled everyone to peer behind the curtain. He has shown everyone that it is possible to live within the truth. It is the ultimate irony of ironies that the most powerful emperors that lord over us, the mega corporations, the state, the corporatist political parties, have no burden of truth. It is becoming more and more obvious that the myth and superstition that surround globalized corporate greed are not just a function of living a lie, but hallucinogenically out of touch with reality. Reality, that is, if avoiding our own extinction is a priority to you. So that leads me to tonight's important topics and our wonderful guests. First off, Matthew Ennis is going to briefly update us on GMO labeling ballot initiatives out west and the biotech and food processing industry's reaction to consumer activism. Secondly, Lindsey, Gillies, and Arthur Hynes will join me for a discussion about climate justice, the Canadian Vermont Gas Company, and the pipeline to the paper mill. Keep in mind that tomorrow, the 27th, on the State House lawn is a rally to demonstrate the people's resolve to resist this insanity. So here we go. Hi, Matthew. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on again, Brad.
You
really
bet.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. No problem. So we got a couple minutes, Matthew. So if you could tell us a little bit about Colorado and Oregon and other GMO developments.
Sure. It's right now. There's two ballot initiatives happening this election cycle in Oregon and Colorado. It's a vote by the people to decide whether they want GMO labeling or not. And in 2012, it lost barely in California, 51 to 49%. There was another one in Washington State last year, and that barely lost. So these initiatives are really important on the heels of us passing something through our legislature for GMO labeling, because we're not in this alone. We need to get it happening all over the country for it to really take effect and to move forward. And nationally, there's no political will to have labeling or to control GMOs. In fact, the EPA just approved another genetically engineered corn and soy, and it's got 2,4-D herbicide. It'll be resistant to 2,4-D herbicide as well as glyphosate, which is Roundup.
Right.
It'll be resistant to both. And the EPA just approved this, and this is part of what made up Agent Orange, 2,4-D. So they're not going in the right direction nationally. That's why the states are doing these initiatives. So if people are so inclined and they want to help out these initiatives, they can go on these websites and find out how to volunteer and get on the phones and get undecided voters out to vote in Colorado and Oregon. That would be really helpful if anyone wants to do that.
Sure. Can you tell us what those are?
Yeah, it's OregonRightToKnow.org and RightToKnowColorado.org. Those are the respective websites. Another couple things just that are happening in Vermont. The Indian scientist and activist Vandana Shiva is speaking a week from today in Burlington from 4 to 6 p.m. at Contoy's Auditorium at City Hall.
So Sunday night.
Yeah. And her talk is entitled Food System Transformation and Recovering and reversing the climate crisis, how Vermont's GMO labeling law is part of the solution. So she's really making the connection between GMOs, agriculture, and the whole climate crisis, which you're going to be dealing with, in the rest of the show. So that's next Sunday, November 2nd, from 4 to 6 p.m. at Contoy's Auditorium.
Yeah, so show up.
Yeah, and if you want to know more details, VermontRightToKnow.org. That's a website for what's going on in Vermont. There's also information about the lawsuit for our labeling law that went through the legislature, that the Grocer Manufacturers Association and some dairy food association, they're suing the state of Vermont to try to block the labeling law.
Right.
And so there's information about that on VermontRightToKnow.org, and you can get updated there. But most important thing, if people want to be activists the next 10 days, that they can get on the phones and try to convince people in Colorado and Oregon to pass these labeling initiatives.
And they'll get hooked up through the GMO Right to Know and the websites in both Oregon and Colorado.
That's right. Yeah, if they want to help out in the other states, they got to go, get into those websites. But
right.
If they want to know what's going on in Vermont, and just go on the one for Vermont.
Yeah.
So,
well, excellent. There's, these issues are all interconnected.
Yeah,
and it's
they
important
definitely
for
are.
people to realize that.
Yes.
It's also, we're still really proud of what Vermont has enacted and become the first state to have a law that actually might have some teeth. So it'd be sure nice to get some other states to get the ball rolling.
Right. And just to say, the biotech companies are spending a lot of money in Oregon and Colorado trying to crush this labeling initiative. They're spending a ton of money in advertising, like they did in California and Washington. So
multiple millions of dollars.
Oh yes. So that's why activists have to stand up to them, and hopefully we'll get some wins there.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Matthew.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
That. You bet. So we are going to now watch our first video for tonight. It is a promo for the action at the State House tomorrow in Montpelier. So, Jim, could you roll that first video for us?
No pipeline! For over 2 years, Vermonters across the state have been organizing and taking action to stop the proposed fracked gas pipeline, the state's largest fossil fuel infrastructure build-out in over 50 years. This summer, we started turning up the heat. On May 27th, climate activists were arrested at Vermont Gas headquarters, demanding an end to the project. On June 9th, impacted landowners and concerned neighbors held a sit-in at the Department of Public Service, calling attention to soil and water contamination associated with the project. On July 2nd, Jane Palmer, a Moncton grandmother who lives within a few hundred feet of the proposed pipeline route, knit in at Vermont Gas headquarters, demanding a meeting with decision makers. For this action, she was arrested. On July 23rd, ratepayers held a fish-in at the Public Service Board, delivering a letter with hundreds of signatures demanding that permits be revoked in light of a $35 million cost overrun. July 26th, activists stopped work at a pipe yard in Williston with the message, "State permits do not equal the permission of the people." August 11th, artists, penguins, musicians, and organizers from across the region stormed the State House and held a climate carnival calling for immediate climate action. And many of you joined us on September 21st when over 2,000 Vermonters marched in the streets of New York City, joining in the largest climate justice demonstration the world has ever seen. In October, we're bringing it home. Join us in Montpelier for what aims to be the largest climate justice action in Vermont state history. sending a message to legislators that Vermonters say no to the fracked gas pipeline and yes to a livable planet. On the 27th, we need everyone. Time's up, rise up, come out and make history. We've been busy, but really, the fight has just begun.
Okay, and we are back. So now I am joined by Lindsey and Arthur, and we are going to talk about the rally tomorrow and why it is important to us, and how we are bringing the People's Climate March back up to Vermont. So, hi folks, how you doing?
Very well, very well.
Excellent. Thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. So tomorrow is the rally and sit-in for climate justice, and so the location is the State House lawn.
Yeah, we're really excited. We're calling for folks all over the state, and it looks like we're having folks not only from all over the state, but all over the region. And we're having people come out, meeting us on the State House lawn at 3 p.m. And we're gonna have a sit-in, which is looking like right now it's gonna be the largest demonstration in Vermont for climate justice. So we're really excited. It's gonna be focused on the fracked gas pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And we're expecting some arrests at this action. Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be really exciting.
So getting a little bit of teeth into the activism.
Yeah, well, if we just saw the video where we've been building all summer,
Yeah.
and we're really excited for this. It sort of feels like this is where the energy's been going all summer, and we're really ready to send the message to our politicians, to Shumlin, that Vermonters are across the state are saying no to this pipeline, and we really need to start building out, new alternatives.
Yes. Yeah, there isn't presently, I think almost worldwide, there's not a piece of fossil fuel infrastructure that's under construction right now that's not being actively resisted. And that is a huge thing. I don't know if any industry, if that has actually happened to any industry in history, at least in recent history. So it's, the gas line is what? It's basically a gas metro project, which is a Canadian corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and they're basically trying to get methane gas over to the International Paper Mill in New York State.
Yeah, and we're riding over the state of Vermont, despite the fact that, Governor Shumlin did sign a ban, banning the fracking in the state of Vermont. And so we're saying we can't frack here, but we can totally carry
Fracked
gas across the state, which seems really problematic. And then also, this is the largest fossil fuel infrastructure build out in over 40 years. So yeah, we're really
in Vermont.
in Vermont.
Right.
So huge project costing, people who are paying their gas bill a ton of money.
Right. Can you speak to that, Arthur? Isn't there some sort of a convoluted payment system where the actual ratepayers that Vermont Gas has now have to foot a lot of the bill for the project?
I don't know the details of the budget, but I would say is that I think what's happening with this action and what needs to happen is just basically raising the bar each time, raising the pressure on all the projects. Like I said, they're all experiencing pressure and
Being resisted.
Put the screws to them and just ratchet up, and everything's going to ratchet up. And climate's ratcheting up, the military's ratcheting up, surveillance ratcheting up, and we got to ratchet up.
It's election season. We're having an election in a few weeks, and we need to call on our elected officials to really act in the best interest of Vermonters today, and also future generations of Vermonters who are going to inherit this land and inherit this space. And it's these fossil fuel infrastructure projects are just absolutely not sustainable.
Right.
And holding them accountable.
And holding them
the
accountable.
system accountable, the corporations accountable, the politicians accountable.
Right. What we're doing is our grassroots lobbying effort. We don't have unlimited multi-million-dollar budgets. We're not even really, permitted as lobbyists to go in and petition legislators. I mean, as individuals, it would be almost a waste of time. But you regular people have to show their will in numbers and mass demonstrations. But we're lobbying that body for redress of grievances, and the grievances is no more fossil fuel infrastructure.
But Rising Tide Vermont and also 350 Vermont has participated in the process, and we have totally engaged with it, and we've been largely ignored. And so the Public Service Board, which is an appointed board that Governor Shumlin appoints, has issued this project a certificate of public good, and we as the people have turned out time and time again to these public hearings. Folks in Addison County right now have turned out time and time again, and those are the folks who currently are facing eminent domain of their property. These are farmers and landowners in Vermont who own their land outright and are being told that they're going to have to leave. So this is a really big and serious issue, and we have engaged the process. And so our action tomorrow is saying that we've really reached a wall, and we need to start bringing people out in mass to say no to these projects, because this is really not in the best interest of our state, and our politicians need to respond to that.
Right. Okay, go ahead, Arthur.
It seems like the support is there. Thinking about those meetings are packed. And 99% against the pipeline.
Right, the Public
few
Service
people
Board
from
hearings and stuff.
Ticonderoga paper came, and a few other individuals, but it was overwhelmingly against it. For people that attended nice long enough.
Some of those Public Service Board hearings and stuff, that it was like at least, I don't even remember what the percentage was. It was 90 some odd percent people were speaking against the project, and for a huge variety of reasons, all of them making perfect sense. And there were a few people, Chamber of Commerce folks, et cetera, and industry representatives that were speaking in favor. But there weren't a lot of just like the average folks that were really jonesing for methane gas. I mean, it's sort of a short term.
But also, this project affects you, like we were saying earlier. If you are paying a bill right now to Vermont Gas, you are supporting this project. And so as ratepayers, additionally to this corporation, we've been stripped of our power to participate in this system. And so we really, the next step of this is, how are we as ratepayers going to come together and say, you're taking our money for this project
which actually comes, on federal level, and you're come down to it where with our taxes, we're paying for the wars and everything else. So,
right.
It's,
the most underrepresented group in the population is the working class folks and the middle classes that are basically paying most of the bills now, and we essentially don't have meaningful representation. I mean, as far as representing our interests against the interests of these big corporations. It's technically, I was reading an interesting bit that it's technically illegal it's unconstitutional under the Vermont State Constitution to have energy projects that basically use Vermont as a corridor to ship energy from one state or one province to another state. That's not constitutional. So it's funny how you can even ram something that's technically unconstitutional through.
Well, but with enough money, you can buy a good constitutional lawyer.
Right. But additionally, there's a ton of corporations' hands and government's hands in this project, and there's a lot of people who benefit from this. And so it's not just, it's not Vermonters at the end of the day who are benefiting from this project. It's, Gas Metro, who is, the other side of Vermont Gas. It's Fort Ticonderoga and the paper mill that's going to benefit from it. And at the end of the day, the people, Vermonters at the end who are on the ground are facing eminent domain. These are landowners,
right.
And us as ratepayers, our bills are about to go up for this project.
Yeah, if phase 2, the second phase of the pipeline that's from Middlebury to run over to Ticonderoga, if that actually does not get its certificate of public good, International Paper will withdraw their multi-million-dollar financing of the project. The entire thing would collapse, and people would be stuck with an albatross running to Middlebury And then you would see some gas being sold to Vermonters just to make the project feasible. But to show their intent, there's very few hookups along the route. A couple of businesses here and there and a few people.
And so your viewers know this is a 3-phase project, and right now a certificate's been offered for the first phase. And right now Vermont Gas is saying, we can hook in with, we're expanding, infrastructure to hook in with different housing projects, and then phase 2 expands down, and then phase 3 goes under the lake to Fort Ticonderoga. And so, we're still in phase 1. That certificate of public good was just potentially reopened, because they had a 40%, which was a $35 million cost overrun.
Yeah, whoops.
Whoops.
Well, how did we miss that?
I do not know, but that increase in the project triggered this process, which was supposed to allow the Public Service Board to come back and say, should we be, offering the certificate? And they found that they did not want to reopen. They did not want to reopen, that the certificates were still good. So we're still moving on phase 1.
Yes.
But it's not too late. So we need to get our voices out before phase 2 goes, and we need to get our voices out before this election.
Right. The Public Service Board is not showing a lot of backbone, so.
Well, do you think, are they pretty much a rubber stamp, or is there any public good in there at all?
I don't know. I think that, right now the Public Service Board is appointed by Governor Shumlin. Mm-hmm. And if the governor is in support of this project and decidedly so, then...
It's got to be really drastically, blatantly obvious that it's not in the public interest.
Mm-hmm.
Right, this project has
been... If they can fudge it, if it's sort of, they'll do it.
The planning has been underway for years and years to ram this through. What we're seeing now is the actual implementation. But they have been planning, as the different corporations and different political structures from Canada and the northeastern states have, it's actually all over Canada, pipeline infrastructure build out, and the United States. Everybody's familiar with the Keystone XL pipeline, which is actually very, it's not insignificant, but it's actually a small percentage of the fossil fuels that are being shipped around the country right now. A lot of it's by train. A lot of it's in old, 40, 50-year-old pipelines, and in the U.S. and Canada. Whatever they can do, it's just like burn it all, get it out, burn it now, or
And they don't give a shit.
It's almost a frenzy.
They're not held accountable.
Right.
They just.
Well, it's a corporate frenzy because it does mean profits. If these resistance movements are, and I'm hoping beyond hope that they are successful, but if they are, that strands a lot of the assets of these corporations in the ground. Mm-hmm. If they can't get it out and burn it, which may kill us all, but it's actually more important for them to make their money than it is to worry about the future of the planet.
The reality is, we know that when, the more push comes to shove, the heavier it's going to get. And, they have vast resources and connections. It's shit's been hitting the fan for a while, and it's just, I think it's going like, as climate change hits the curve, it's geometric.
Yeah.
It's not Earth. It's not going up like this. It's going up like this.
Right.
And the more shit hits the fan, the more they're going to clamp down and get desperate and ruthless, and
So sure. As far as militarized police and military and intelligence work, and the state will do whatever it can to keep the state's role is to help grease the skids for the corporations, so that some of that can definitely be expected.
Yeah, I don't want to stay there,
No.
Like, be aware of it, but plan what we do now.
And we sent 2,000 Vermonters to New York for the big climate march, and the rallying cry across that was, we need to be preserving future generations. Young and future generations are going to inherit this land and space.
Well, the entire march, that was the theme, the kids there and the parents and the
it's about survival.
It's great.
I mean, It really is about survival. It is not an esoteric argument about something around the margins. It is about our survival. as a species, and all of everybody else who's on this planet with us, you know.
Well, can I shift a tiny bit?
Sure, of course.
We're going to watch a video from the Climate March. Were you two as charged up by being in New York as I was?
Boy, I'm telling you, it was just an overwhelming experience, and I couldn't believe the range of people that I saw of from every demographic you could measure, from age to ethnicity, and just all people from all around the world. I can't even begin to remember all the different countries I saw represented. I mean, there was pushing 400,000 people, which was just mind-boggling. It was almost as mind-boggling as the darn canyons are themselves down there, the sheer number of activists.
Well, yeah, and the heavy union representative and neighborhood and indigenous and just all kinds of doctors and medical professionals.
Across the board, we're realizing that climate change affects everybody. But what was so beautiful about that climate march was that we were putting at the forefront the impacted communities and the voices that really need to be uplifted.
Yeah.
And that's why it was so inspiring.
And that was that added so much power. Led by the indigenous people. That's right on. That's the way it has to be.
And we're taking
and with the first
Nations.
the most impacted people,
frontline communities,
right there with them.
And we're taking our inspiration from that, exact idea that our frontline community here is the folks who are directly in the root of this pipeline. And those are those folks out in Addison County, down in Moncton, who really are about to lose their land. And we, as the people and as the state of Vermont, need to say that this is an unacceptable tactic. We really cannot condone this. And coming out tomorrow on October 27th and, participating in our action, whether or not you want to risk arrest or not, but just putting your body, on the line and joining us for this rally is really signaling that, that's unacceptable behavior, and we need to hold our government and our politicians way more accountable.
Yeah. And now the rally is also, I see on the quarter sheet I have here, also, because it's not just all about heavy-handed political action, it's also about movement building.
Yep.
So there are going to be a variety of different speakers and music and food and entertainment.
There are going to be puppets. There's going to be brass bands. There's going to be free food. It's going to be super fun.
I know. That's
just,
a real
just
political
like
party.
Oh, yeah.
Well, just like the Climate Cabaret after the Climate Justice Weekend, me as a videographer loves that. There's just so much going on and so many shots, and it's like candy everywhere. It's just real cool. It's visually and wonderful, and, as well as being exciting on a lot of levels.
And effective for many reasons.
Yeah, we're over the debate about whether or not climate change is real or not, but we're trying to make, the different aspects of this as accessible and as beautiful as possible, so that we're really capturing the imagination of folks. And it's so exciting and inspiring to see how many different people are getting, creative and involved.
Right, and really, putting the creative energy into it. That was, to me, one of the most wonderful things about the Climate Justice Weekend was the make. And then seeing that, and being in Montpelier, and seeing all the puppets and masks and signs and everything else that they've been making, and then in New York, it was all over the place. There was so much cool stuff.
Yeah,
I'm still going through video of that, because there was a lot. I shot, I think, over 3 hours of the march. A lot of cool stuff. So.
Yeah, there was so much going on. It's impossible to remember it all. And the theatrical nature of some of the stuff, and the quality of the bands and the music and the singing, in and amongst the sheer number of people with their signs, and it was a very powerful message.
Oh man, you felt the power of being in that march. It was like, people were fed up, but celebrating and coming together and joyously, but like, yeah, basta.
This can be Vermonters taking a leadership role in actually halting one of these infrastructure projects, and it can be an inspiration to the rest of the nation and the world.
The system is a house of cards, so you never know when you start something and do it the first time, it's like the GMO bills. You know, I mean,
Right.
Vermont has done it, but you know, as soon as a state in the West can do it, you know, and
Right.
that gets the ball rolling. So.
And Governor Shumlin loves to, talk about renewables and talk about how clean and green Vermont is. And, at the end of the day, we passed a fracking ban. Why are we allowing fracked gas to cross our land? That doesn't work. And we just have to start to build out new alternatives. It's just, we're running out of time. And that's why we're using the hashtag Time's Up, Rise Up.
Yeah, and the hypocrisy, just like hold them accountable. You don't want frack gas, you ban it in Vermont, then, don't support it somewhere else.
Yeah, politics, the old saying goes, makes for very strange bedfellows, and that's what you could attribute that Shumlin behavior to. So another interesting quote by Nelson Mandela says that everything is impossible until it happens. So that's the attitude you have to have, and you've got to keep struggling and keep working. And as an inspiration, that's a brilliant statement. So we are going to move on now to our last video. It is called Music of the People's Climate March, and it was produced by Theo Talcott, who has a brilliant show in the Manchester, Vermont market called The Climate Show. So Jim, could you run that video for us, please, sir?
Thank you.
tomorrow, but coming up now, one of the great voices in progressive politics in New York City, #1 recording artist from the 60s and 70s. Please welcome Peter Yarrow.
I've been singing all day. It's been very reminiscent of the marches on which Peter, Paul, and Mary participated. In 1963, we had 250,000 people, and it changed all our lives, and it our course was set in a different way, because when we were all together, we knew that we did have a certain kind of power, and we continued, and the civil rights movement flourished, and a great deal of what was horrific at the time changed. We had 250,000 people then, and we have 310,000 people here, 60,000 more. It was not, however, just the numbers. It was the sense of the urgency of what we were doing. We're going to sing you a song that was the very song that Peter, Paul, and Mary sang at that time. And we want you to sing along with us. The name of the song is If I Had a Hammer. Well, I still got a hammer. And I still got a bell. And I've still got a song to sing. All over this land. Still the hammer of justice. It's still the bell of freedom. It's still the love between my brothers and my sisters. All over this. Welcome, Grandpa Jerry Nelson from the Navajo tribe.
Mother Earth, Father Universe, the air in all four directions, the sun, the moon, the stars, we are in the midst of you. Come to you, holy divine creation, have creator of all things, bless us about our concerns. And I said, everything's going to be beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Whoa!
If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning, hammer in the evening, all over this land. Hammer out danger, I'd hammer out warning, crazy gathering today. It is very true that if policy changes, change will occur. But if you want that change to stick, if you want the policy to be embraced, the only thing that will assure that is that we resuscitate the black hole of empathy in our country, whereby we will once again care more about our children and the next 7 generations than we do about the stuff that we accumulate. If we do in Africa, when 2 people meet in an occasion in the bush, they raise their hands and they ask each other one question. And that question is, the first one asks, how are your children? And the second one answers, they are well, thank you. Then the other one responds, how are your children? And the response hopefully is, they are well, thank you. If we simply make that the priority of our lives and our policies, then we will save this planet, because we will care, and the laws and the people who represent us will follow.
Here you are in Times Square. You have the arc from the Auburn Seminary School. Enjoy Times Square.
walking along the earth. Say yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but
I figure I'm panhandling Mother Earth. I'm a panhandler, Mother Earth.
Yeah? Panhandle?
You know, when people...
Please help. Oh, yes.
People love to help people with these signs, so I figured maybe they'd help Mother
We'll work
Earth.
for climate justice.
Real work for... Yes. This is what I need.
Awesome. So clear. Well, we're sure to do it for you. Thank you for being in service to the human race, and we'll see you in the 33rd century.
Hopefully.
How was the march? It's fantastic. It was diverse. People from all over the world. People from every ethnicity. People of all ages, all colors, all creeds. It is an amazing march.
Why do you like Elizabeth Warren?
I like Elizabeth Warren because she tells it like it is. She tells the truth. She stands up for power.
I agree. Hit the record button. Run, Elizabeth, run!
The only solution to climate change is a massive worldwide movement to veganism now. The top climate specialists at the World Bank tell us the only solution to climate change is a massive movement to veganism. This means you. That's the action you can take. If you eat meat, dairy, fish, and eggs, you're part of the #1 problem. Animal agriculture is the #1 cause of climate change, responsible for at least 51% of all greenhouse gas emissions. If you want to stop climate change, go vegan now.
New York Inside is our meditation center. I think Buddhism teaches us that we're not separate from the world. We're all one creature, so we can't destroy ourselves. Don't want to shoot myself in the foot.
Basic compassion, meditation teach humans about saving the earth.
It teaches you a lot about slowing down, which is something we really need to do. Yeah.
Instead of running around buying things, just like enjoy.
Slow down.
One concentrated.
Yeah. Grasp objects less. Yeah.
So we're from Habonim Dror, which is a socialist Zionist youth movement. We run 7 Jewish overnight camps around the country and Canada, and basically work on empowering youth through education and activism.
Well, we just came from a seminar that we ran for the kids that we work with, and we talked about what climate change means in terms of capitalism and in terms of systems of power, and how they can feel accountable and how they can actualize our values, and that's why we're here. Yeah.
What does Judaism have to teach us about saving the earth?
So much.
Yeah, I think that Judaism really teaches a basic, essential care for your surroundings, for the people around you, but also for the earth. You can trace it back to the Torah, but also through Jewish history and labor movements which Jews have been involved with. I think that it's absolutely tied into our Jewish faith and our Jewish practice to be environmental.
Here we are in the Pathland. I'm going to show you this incredibly interesting. The water's up to his necks, people. I mean, we really have to get it on with it. He's up to the mother. Where are you guys from? Tell me about climate change. What does it mean to you?
To me, climate change is like how we're destroying the world and everything that we're doing wrong that's coming back to affect us.
That's right. What do you hope the people do?
I hope people stop drilling oil and shipping it around in the Hudson.
Man, so you're really on top of it. How old are you?
11.
Cool. Are kids here in your class talking about climate change?
Not really.
Well, they're not talking about it among the adults either, so don't worry. It must be a human problem. But we're getting there. Do you enjoy the march?
Yes.
Is this your first march?
For climate change, yes.
We are Canadians. For Our Grandchildren is the Canadian organization. We're down here to tell the world that unfortunately our country is not part of the solution. It's part of the problem. Margie?
And we're very concerned about the world that we're leaving to our grandchildren. for my cousin, and this from Carly, age 7. I want to save the dogs.
They want to keep Wolf's leadership that engages the ingenuity of the pack. And from Lindsey, Aaron Cooper in Brooklyn, seasons, balance, and equilibrium. I am with you.
We are with you.
This ribbon says, amazing Australian birds. That's from Gail, 60, Warburton, Victoria, Australia. I've always wanted to go to Australia, so Gail, I am with you.
I am with you.
We are with you.
Nicholas, age 4, I want to grow in a clean green planet. Nicholas, I am with you.
Love, humanity, creation, justice, water for all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anonymous.
This is from Camila from NYC, Spain, and Peru. I want to keep my culture as defined by its nature. We are with you. We are with you. Beaches.
We are with you.
You all are doing such a good job. Welcome to the grove of the trees of life. You are all welcome. You're all welcome to fill out a ribbon. Put on a ribbon. What do you not want to lose to climate change? What is meaningful to you? Where is your heart? And then add it anywhere along the ropes here. And then find another one. Find one that resonates with you. One that speaks to your heart, makes you laugh, makes you remember something sweet, poignant, personal. And then you're welcome to come up here and share it so that we can all hold that contract with you. By taking a ribbon, you're saying that you care about what that person cares about, and we can all hold that attention with you. So you're all welcome. Looks like we have a child. Chesapeake, Virginia. Water. Thank you.
I do not want to lose hope itself, the possibility of an equal and just world, the beauty of my home, a healthy planet, and compassion. I am with you.
We are with you.
This comes from Erica Schreiner from Washington. People I love. People I love. I am with you.
This is from Maruka, age 10 in New York. I hope that all of the animals and trees don't die and don't get chopped down.
This is from Holly, age 68. Enough rain in Arizona to keep it as beautiful as it is. And
climate change. Stop. Hate it.
All right, and again, that was the music of the People's Climate March, and that was produced by Theo Talcott, and a great job. I really, really enjoyed that video. So remember, all problems are solvable by their very nature, and that maximizing the power of the powerless is our best hope for solutions. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is Critical Mass TV, and we will see you tomorrow in Montpelier on the State House lawn. So have a good night, everybody. Brad Hartley, Critical Mass TV. Thanks again.